My name is Dave Webster here at the University of Gloucester, and I'm here with my colleague Martin Wood, and we've been talking about Buddhism in all sorts of ways today. We now come to two particular types of Buddhism that fit under the big broad banner of Mahayana that we've been exploring, which are Yogacara and Madhyamaka. What are these, Martin?
I'll start with Madhyamaka.
Yeah, please do.
School of philosophy. Founded on the works of Nagarjuna, 2nd century around. The central idea here is sunyata. Nagarjuna was a sunyatavadan, a proponent of all that is emptiness. He holds a position of emptiness, he understands emptiness. And what he's promoting is a middle way between eternalism and annihilationism. The idea of dependent origination, pratya samappada, forgive me, that all things are without their own existence. What I would suggest that what he is doing and what this school is doing is taking things back to the original teachings of the Buddha. Pratya samappada, very, very important teaching. He is extending on the Abhidharma. He's taking the Abhidharma further. The Abhidharmas didn't carry through the process far enough as far as he's concerned. Conceptual existence for Nagarjuna dissolves. So, for example, does X, for example, our mobile phone, or even, I don't know, Cheryl Cole, have an existence in their own right? You know, can they be dissolved into component parts? Is Cheryl's conceptualization of herself correct? I'd love to have her in the class to ask about, of course.
Well, moving on from your slight fancy about who you're having your class, but I think that term, Madhyamaka, of course, is linguistically related to the notion of a middle way. You know, Yamaka, which is kind of two and used for twins and things, and they're kind of between the two, the kind of middle way, and the idea of it coming back to something original is quite a powerful feature of religious studies discourse generally. Traditions like this idea of going back to, and the other saying somehow it's gone in the wrong direction. In this case, I think it's very powerful.
Very, very much.
And it works very well for Nagarjuna in conceiving of the original meaning of Buddhism that way.
And the question comes out of that as well. Do we have our own existence? So this is taking us into this whole existential anxiety, which is something which is been a very, very popular theme over a number of, certainly in the last 100 years, for example. And, you know, this epistemological anxiety as well. This whole idea of we're lacking our own existence, bringing us beautifully into the whole idea of phenomenology as well. And Nagarjuna is expressing a position that no individual is anything in and by itself.
We're all
that's the essential,
empty of own nature.
Nothing is self-existent.
We're here echoing in the Heart Sutra and places. This things are empty of own nature. Yeah, we are just the consequence of interactions of a causal universal process.
Yeah, and he sums it up by saying, existence means that things exist eternally and independently. They don't. Simple as. Let's go on to Yogacara. It could be considered to be a rival school in some degrees, and it's concerned with chittamatra, the mind only.
So this phrase chittamatra is mind only. So chitta is kind of mind state, and matra is kind of only. So just the mind.
Yeah, absolutely, the pure mind. For this particular school, there appears to be a multiplicity of many things. Everything here, they appear to exist. And it is only appearance. Our minds have imposed a fixed interpretation of what this book is. It is our experience. We perceive things existing only as appearance. They are created by the mind, is what our man is getting to, as Sangha is getting to here. And dreams and mirages, for example, prove this. We have a dream, there's no real object there, yet it could be pleasant or unpleasant. So it's what we're actually pushing onto. The mind is putting on there. There are no selves or external objects ourselves.
And this is, I think, where we start to find in the works of Sangha and Vasubandhu, and within the Yogacara tradition, some diversity, because chittamatra is a very broad kind of notion. The reality is mind only. You find very extreme, hard interpretations of that in Yogacara that says the physical external world does not exist. And then the kind of softer Yogacara view that says, we've got no proof it does, and it doesn't matter whether it does or not anyway, because the world that you experience is not an external world. The world as you experience is one that you broadcast into reality as much as receive back from reality, and that's a kind of softer view, epistemologically.
Yeah.
But the harder Yogacara view says that everything is a projection of the mind, and that takes us into all sorts of dangerous territory from a Western philosopher's point of view. If you start to worry about the problem of the minds and all that really raises big issues that I'm not going to get drawn into quite now. But Yogacara isn't just one single idea. It's one single idea that starts to find diverse expression within, Buddhism's very keen in scholastic inquiry, and that scholastic inquiry, once it gets to the idea of Chittamatra, goes in slightly different directions, and that's either really interesting or annoying, depending on what kind of scholar you are.
Indeed, excellent. Yeah, but one of the questions I think is important here is, is it how close is it, or is it closed even to the authentic teachings of the Buddha?
This question is Yogacara or Madhyamaka or Zen or any other, but nearer to the authentic teachings of the Buddha than what Theravada Buddhism became, presumes that we have something called the authentic teaching of the Buddha that we can make a judgment against that would allow me to answer that question yes or no. Anybody writing an essay or writing about Buddhism, it says this is different to the original teaching of the Buddha or the authentic original of the Buddha, needs to pause a minute and think, well, what am I saying? How do I know what the authentic original teaching of the Buddha is? That's a very rhetorical claim. You do it to claim authority. You do it to claim that your kind of Buddhism is better because it's near to the original form of Buddhism. But when we don't know what the original form was and what the original form consists of, then that becomes a much more problematic claim. So when people claim their teaching is nearer to the original form of Buddhism, you have to think, not just are they right so much, but why are they making that claim? What lies beneath? Why are they not improving the original version? Well, because the Buddha's perfect or not perfect, but the Buddha's omniscient and knows it all, in that sense about enlightenment. So there seems to be a number of different things going on in those claims. Now you might say the ideas of early Theravada are better expressed by later traditions, maybe not. And there's a good case for Madhyamaka in some ways, but I think there's something more going on than just a neutral claim that this is closer than that is. There's something more qualitative.
And that's something, I was just going to say, we will be talking about secular Buddhism later on, but it's something very interesting that Stephen Batchelor brought up in his presentation of his Buddha 2.0, is that it is a development. Who is to say that this is not the actual evolution of Buddhism onwards from there as well, away from what could be considered to be the authentic word of the Buddha. So that's interesting in itself. Also, our teachings of Pratitya Samutpada, are they undermined by dualistic arguments by, for example, Aristotle or Plato?
What they are is not necessarily compatible with them. Whether they're undermined by them or not depends how persuaded you are by a dualistic account of the universe. If you're a metaphysical dualist, if you think the world is constituted of fundamentally different types of things, of mind or matter, if you go down a kind of Descartes Cartesian dualism for a strong substance dualism, if you think the world is made of mind and matter, then you cannot be a Madhyamaka Buddhist. That might not worry you if you're a Cartesian dualist, but the two positions seem incompatible because what Nagarjuna in his writings about sunyata is he's a monist. He believes everything is one. And what is one? Emptiness. And therefore everything is not two. So a substance dualist like Descartes says fundamentally there are two kinds of stuff in the universe. Mental stuff, physical stuff, mind and matter, spirit and matter, however you want to kind of consider it. And everything is one or the other, and they have certain qualities. Some endure, some are very extension in space, but they have different things. Nagarjuna says everything is empty. What is the thing that marks everything? Emptiness marks everything.
Including nirvana?
Now, I'm going to get down to a long spiral of doom and trying to argue about nirvana. Much as I would like to do that for the next 6 hours with you, Martin. But the question about whether nirvana is marked by emptiness or not is an interesting one. And you will find some people who argue, yeah, that seems fair. But normally it will say all conditioned dharmas are marked in this way, which is a very fancy way of saying everything that's not nirvana. But then you can say, nirvana is it even a thing? Are we getting into a linguistic trap due to the way we use nouns and things?
Of course,
and so nirvana is actually the absence of conditioned dharmas, and you know, the term nirvana comes from the extinguishing of a fire. You know, well, a fire, when a fire is put out, you say, where's it gone? You can't look underneath the grates for it. It doesn't make sense. So to ask where nirvana is in relation to this may be an equally meaningless question.
So that underpinning of the samsara and nirvana are the same.
And that comes, and we've said in the previous video, I'm sure, and people have read about, and this idea that they are, to use the fancy term our friend Peter used earlier, coterminous, is quite persuasive.
Beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.